So, after a ton of preparation, watching cutscenes from the previous games, and almost 2 weeks of actually playing it, I finally finished Kingdom Hearts 3. Overall, I thought it was pretty good, but I definitely did have my issues. For starters, the bosses weren't nearly as good as Kingdom Hearts 2, both due to the lack of reaction commands, and because a good portion of the bosses before the end game are just random creatures that I have no real reason to care about. I mean, you have the actual villains of these movies right here, and instead you just want me to fight some random, admittedly cool-looking monster? My other big issue, though, is with the story. It's not that it fails to resolve all these plot points. The game actually does it quite well, with the exception of Maleficent and Pete, who have no reason to be in the game whatsoever. Seriously, they do nothing. My problem is the way the story is paced. You see, unlike Kingdom Hearts 2, where they didn't keep you in each world for too long, and you would revisit each one so it would get further fleshed out, here, you go to each world once, and it takes freaking forever. And during the entire portion of the game, where you're going to the Disney worlds, there's not much plot advancement. When you're in the worlds, the most you'll get is finding out who one of the members of the new Organization 13 is, and get some vague hints as to what it is they're doing. And in between the worlds, you'll get 1 or 2 cutscenes advancing the story. So, I found myself wanting to rush through the bulk of the game just so I could get those tiny, minuscule breadcrumbs of plot progression. Which is why you haven't seen the Danganronpa video yet. I've been too busy playing Kingdom Hearts 3. Don't worry though, that one's next. So yeah, instead of spacing out plot-relevant events somewhat evenly throughout the game, almost all of them are crammed into Kingdom Hearts 3's super long end game. And that's where we get to the topic of this video. Yes, everything you've seen up until this point has just been an excuse for me to vent about my frustrations with Kingdom Hearts 3. I mean, I wanted to do it, where else was I going to? You see, after beating the game, I went on a run, which is when I tend to collect my thoughts and get a lot of good ideas. And while I was running, I thought a lot about Kingdom Hearts 3's finale and realized something. This is a lot like Homestuck. It sounds crazy, but I'm serious. There are a lot of similarities between Kingdom Hearts 3's endgame and Act 6 of Homestuck. And no, I didn't accidentally say Act 6 twice. That is legitimately what it's called. So here's the question in the title. Did Kingdom Hearts 3 steal from Homestuck? Probably not, considering the fact it's unlikely Tetsuya Nomura even knows what Homestuck is. But like I said, there's a surprising amount of similarities, so let's get into them. Just to clarify, with Kingdom Hearts 3, we're starting once you're done with all the Disney worlds, and for Homestuck, we're starting at Act 6. Before we even get into individual details, there are a lot of stories between these two properties already. Both of them are pretty long, very complicated, have a lot of rules to their universes, and have a lot of characters whose arcs need to be finished by the end. To start off with, both finales begin with an encounter with a major female character whom the audience has seen things from the perspective of quite a bit. This character is normally a hero, but they have been corrupted by an outside force and are now fighting the main characters. In Kingdom Hearts' case, it's Aqua, who's succumbed to the darkness and is now fighting Riku, Mickey, and Sora. In Homestuck's case, it's Jade, who is about to help out, but the Troll Empress, and yes, that's what I'm calling her because I am not pronouncing that, uses the fact that Jade is half dog to mind control her. I know that statement sounded insane to anyone who's not familiar with Homestuck, but we'd be here all day if I took the time to explain every little minutia of what's going on. So what happens next? Simple. The revival of a character who's been dead for quite a while, before the series itself even started. In Kingdom Hearts' case, it's Ventus, who has his heart ripped from his body in Birth by Sleep, which takes place before the original. But his heart was stored inside of Sora's heart, so when Sora makes it to Ventus's body in Castle Oblivion, it revives him. In Homestuck's case, it's Arania Circuit, who's been dead for maybe even millions of years. I don't know if they actually specify how long, but it is an incredibly long time. She mind controls Gamzee into giving her the life ring so she can bring herself back from the dead. Then there was the scene that gave me the idea for this video. In Kingdom Hearts, it's when the heroes first go to the Keyblade graveyard, and in Homestuck, it's the infamous game over sequence. Both of these are incredibly brutal, incredibly sad scenes where you see just about every major character getting killed off. But it's in a way that even when watching it, you know it won't last. And this is for two reasons. One, it would be far too dark for either of these properties to end that way, even though both of them have had massacres of major characters in the past. With Kingdom Hearts, there was the ending of Birth by Sleep, and with Homestuck, there was that legitimately terrifying sequence in Act 5 where half of the trolls just get killed off because they were killing each other. And the second reason is that the rules of these universes have so many loopholes that death is basically meaningless at this point. By this point in Homestuck, there's like 5 different ways to bring someone back from the dead. But anyway, how do you go about fixing a tragedy like this? Well, both properties do it in the same way. The main character goes on a soul-searching journey and eventually masters a power that we knew existed but didn't really know what it did, and uses said power to return to previously seen locations, save his friends, and fix everything. In Kingdom Hearts' case, Sora ends up in the final world, and after gathering himself, he masters the power of waking, which Yen Sid would never shut up about and constantly used as an excuse not to advance the story. But I digress. Sora uses this power to return to all the previously visited Disney worlds in this game, rescue his friends' hearts, and return them to before they all got obliterated. John, meanwhile, completes his planet's quest, which is something that everyone playing the game was supposed to do, but no one actually did. Through doing this, John gains his time travel retconning powers, which he uses to go back into the past and change a couple events, most notably saving Vriska's life. And despite the fact that Vriska was actually the cause of a lot of the terrible things that happened in Homestuck, she actually helps out. To make a long story short, she puts Jade and Jane to sleep instead of killing them, and prevents the rest of the heroes from getting into the fractured state that caused them to get obliterated in the first place. Also, using said power involves giving an above average level of annoyance to the audience member. With Homestuck, in order for John to time travel, you have to enter in the codes that Terezi gave him, which isn't really a big deal, but at the same time, entering in a code requires significantly more effort than just clicking on an arrow to go to the next page. With Kingdom Hearts, you have to fight the Lich 7 times, and the Lich is not a hard boss, but he is definitely an annoying one. It's also worth noting that around this time, a fan favorite character is revived. With Homestuck, it's Vriska's aforementioned revival, and with Kingdom Hearts, it's Roxas. Before the final battle, there is a series of scenes. It's the characters split up into groups, just talking to each other, catching up, getting to know each other better, having a good deal of character development before the final battle. You could say it goes on a bit long. With Homestuck, I think that's an understatement, but it's worth it for the great character development that we get right before we launch into the big epic showdown. But anyway, now it's time for the final battle. There's a lot of heroes, but there's also a lot of villains. So the main characters have to split up into groups in order to take them on. It's worth noting here that some of the villains in the mix are literally just alternate versions of the same guy. With Kingdom Hearts, you have Xehanort, Young Xehanort, Ansem, and Xemnas, all of whom are alternate versions of, you guessed it, Xehanort. In Homestuck, on the other hand, 3 of the 5 villains are Beck Noir, Lord Jack, and Spade Slick, all of whom are versions of Jack Noir from different sessions of the Universe game. Not to mention, one of these variations, at one point or another, led a gang that was filled with a bunch of people who had very unique and very distinct powers. Xemnas had the original Organization 13 back in Kingdom Hearts 2, and Spade Slick takes control of the Felt going into the final battle. And then the final battle begins. And it is great. It might not be as visually stunning as earlier moments in the series. With Kingdom Hearts, Xemnas comes to mind, and with Homestuck, Cascade comes to mind, but it is great. Each fight is given all the attention it's needed, and every character gets their chance to shine. Well, except maybe Kairi. Seriously, what was the point in teaching her how to fight if she's just gonna be the damsel in distress again? In Homestuck, every fight imaginable that's going on at the moment is shown, and every character gets a good amount of screen time, and it looks awesome. In Kingdom Hearts, on the other hand, you fight multiple organization members per boss fight, which actually makes it a lot more fun. And not only do we get some great development from the heroes, but each organization member is actually given a really good send-off, all of them becoming pretty sympathetic. Yes, even the ones who are alternate versions of Xehanort. I never thought you could make someone as insane and evil as Xehanort sympathetic, but they actually managed to pull it off. By the end, I was thinking, wait, am I playing Kingdom Hearts or watching an episode of Steven Universe? My only complaint, though, is the fight with Armored Xehanort. The fight sucked and had no reason to be there. It was completely unnecessary story-wise. It's also worth noting that while all of this is going on, a character who's been noted to be particularly wise is off combating a different threat from the main heroes. With Kingdom Hearts, it's Yen Sid, who's presented as this all-knowing figure, and he's keeping the Heartless at bay while the Keyblade wielders take out the organization. Meanwhile, in Homestuck, it's Vriska, who concocted the whole plan of attack for the final battle in the first place, and she's leading an army against Lord English. And that's pretty much all the similarities. I could talk about the endings and how they show every character's epilogue, but that's just kind of characteristic of good endings for stories like this. Although there is a kind of a big difference, actually. With Kingdom Hearts, it's all happy, but with Homestuck, there is kind of a dark tinge, because you know what Caliborn's about to do, because of his crappy stop-motion vines. Yikes. So, what do you guys think? Were you also blown away by the insane amount of similarities these two stories have? Or do you think I'm just grasping at straws? Or do you think something in the middle? Let me know in the comments down below. I am Defoffalizer, and I promise the Danganronpa video is going to be next. I don't really have any thoughts on the Nintendo Direct. I mean, what, you want me to talk about Tetris Battle Royale? Come on, guys. What's wrong with you?